Greetings and welcome back to the channel. I'm Ananda Shakti, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I am a conscious trance medium, and I usually share transmissions from the angelic realm to assist us in the awakening of our new earth being and support the collective to move in a way that is with a lot of grace and ease and joy. Today, I'm going to read to you from this ancient scripture, the Bhagavadgita, because it speaks so beautifully about something that are called gunas in Sanskrit. These are attributes of reality, of the way that we experience life, physical, emotional, and mental attributes. And there are three primary gunas. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, who is the supreme personality of the Godhead, is speaking to one of the warriors, the famous warrior named Arjuna, on a battle that's a spiritual battlefield. And he's speaking to him about all of the different principles of the evolution of consciousness and the transformation of your life from limitation into love. And in this particular chapter, which is chapter 14, he speaks so beautifully about these attributes that we in our normal consciousness, in our regular conditioned consciousness, in every human being, most of the time, we are identifying with these attributes as reality and as who we are. And this is a very big misunderstanding, and it keeps us bound to our limited self. And so I wanted to read to you this chapter that explains it so beautifully to assist us in this evolution of consciousness, to release ourselves from that which we are not, the transient parts of ourself, and identify ourselves with that which is the eternal self. And people who are aware of my website, it's called onlyloveisreal.love. And so it's all about the work that I do, the work that I share from the angelic realm is all about that. It's all about showing us where we have these false identities within wounds, within strengths, within all sorts of realities, and showing us how to release them and what we can be without them. So this is a beautiful complement to the work. I hope you enjoy. It's chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna said, I shall expound once more the supreme knowledge, the best of all knowledge, acquiring which all sages have attained highest perfection, being liberated from the mundane existence. So here he means by mundane existence, this idea that we are born and that we die and that we have to run after this our whole lives. We have to stay in this existence of just survival and fighting over survival and trying to do everything just to keep ourselves in survival mode, when that is really our mundane self. Let's go. Those who, by practicing this knowledge, have entered into my being, so this is Krishna speaking as the Godhead, as the source energy. So he's talking about, so when you're practicing this knowledge of overcoming the mundane, you enter into the source energy, you enter into the supreme consciousness. They are not born again at the cosmic dawn, nor do they feel disturbed even during the cosmic dissolution, which is called pralaya. So in the Vedic teachings, we have this idea of pralaya, that is a time when the universe kind of reabsorbs itself and everything is complete, everything is finished. And then there is a cosmic dawning that happens again in the natural sequence of the intelligence of the great mystery of life. And so the beings who understand this great knowledge that is beyond the world of form, and understanding or comprehending in a Vedic sense means embodying it. It's not an intellectual experience. It's an embodied experience. That's what they mean when the word understand or comprehend is meant. So those who are comprehending this information, they are not born, they do not die. They are not born again in the cosmic dawn. So even once the pralaya, the great dissolution, takes place and all is absorbed back in, then they don't come forward again. They stay in this constant state of equanimity. My primordial nature, known as the great creation, is the womb of all creatures. In that womb, I place the seed of all life. The creation of all beings follows in that union of matter and spirit. So matter and spirit is the process for the union of matter and spirit creates all beings. We know this, right? We know this from our own direct experience. And if we can start to understand that this is what is creating, me right now that you're looking at, yourself sitting right there, the screen that's sitting right there. So matter and spirit come together in ways that we don't recognize most of the time. They come into union and it creates. Of all embodied beings that appear, all the species of various kinds, nature is the conceiving mother, and I am the seed-giving father. So of all the beings, nature is the mother, and Krishna, source energy, is the seed-giving father. And here we come into this concept of the gunas, which are these different attributes. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So these are the Sanskrit names. Sattva is purity and complete balance and harmony. Rajas is this kinetic energy and when it gets imbalanced is overactivity. And Tamas is considered to be inertia. So something that just feels like very slothy and is not moving very, very quickly or very well. These three gunas are born of nature, so they're born out of nature, and they tie the imperishable soul to the body. So the gunas themselves, the purity, the kinetic action, and the inertia, tie the imperishable soul that lives within each and every one of us, to the body. So this is what makes us believe that we are the body. And it's this kind of concept that I wanted to share with you because I personally find it so awakening and so liberating to have understanding of what's taking place. Like, why do I feel connected to the body? Oh, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But this is why. It's because the gunas do this. And now what do we do about that? Of these, sattva, being immaculate, is illuminating and flawless. So this is the one that is the purity and the harmony. It binds through attachment to happiness and knowledge. So hear those words carefully. Sattva, purity and harmony, binds through attachment to happiness and knowledge. Just let that sit in you, because we often think, well, this is what we're looking for, is wisdom and happiness. This is what we're looking for. And it's true, but it's a slightly different experience of it. So when it's from the sattvic place, when it's from this place under the governing of sattva, we're being attached to it. We're bound to it. And it's binding our imperishable soul to the body. So keep listening. Knowing the qualities of rajas, which is the nature of passion, born out of desire and attachment. So it's a passion, it's a desire, a passion that's born out of desire and attachment. So it's a kind of activity that is wanting to get some kind of result. It feels that it's missing something, and so therefore it's going to try and get it, and it's going to try and do it, and it's action that has a motivation in it, and attachment in it. It binds the soul through attachment to actions and their fruits. So rajas, this activity, this kinetic activity, binds the soul, the imperishable soul, through its attachment to actions and their fruits. Okay? Now, don't worry if you're not familiar with this kind of teaching, where it's all going to make sense by the end, because it doesn't mean that you're not going to act. It's giving you a whole new way to do it that will not be binding for you. And know that tamas, the inertia, is the deluder of all those who look upon the body as their own selves. So when we look upon the body as this is who we are, we're really attached to the body. We're in this delusion of tamas, this inertia. And it is born of ignorance, meaning it's ignorant of the truth. It's not recognizing that this is just temporary, that this is a vehicle for our imperishable soul. It binds the imperishable soul through error, sloth, and sleep. So error means misperception. It means actions that are anything less than love and that create anything less than freedom. Sloth, it's like just not being able to move. And sleep here means just like sleepiness of consciousness, just sleepiness, like everything feels heavy, like it's not moving. Sattva draws one to joy, rajas to action, while tamas, clouding the vision, impels one to error, sleep, and sloth. So see this. So sattva, this guna, it compels us to want joy. And don't worry, it's going to make sense. Rajas compels us to want this activity. And tamas compels us into making, misjudging things, being kind of slothy, being kind of sleepy in their nature. So this is the reason why we have these experiences. When we overpower activity and inertia, then what will happen is that the guna called sattva, which is this balance and harmony and purity, will prevail. And when we overpower the purity and the inertia, then the activity, the rajas, will prevail. And when we overpower the purity and the activity, then the inertia will prevail. So whatever we do with any of them, when we're working to try to overpower one or the other, if we're only overpowering two of them, then the other one left is the one that's going to prevail. So listen up. When light and discernment dawn in this body, as well as in the mind and the senses. So when light, like cosmic light, and discernment, cosmic knowledge, dawn, awaken in the body, in the mind, and in the senses, then we know that sattva is predominant, this experience of harmony, this experience of balance, this experience of purity. When the preponderance of rajas, greed, activity, undertaking of actions with an interested motive, restlessness, and a thirst for enjoyment make their appearance, then this is the time of rajas. So let's look at some of these things here. Undertaking of action with an interested motive. Well, most people do something because they have the interest in something else happening. We're going to understand how to take action with a directive goal without it binding you. So just wait up. And a thirst for enjoyment. So what's wrong with the thirst for enjoyment? What's wrong with the thirst for enjoyment? We should all enjoy life. And absolutely, this is about enjoying life. What it's saying here is that we have a thirst for it. What we're actually saying is that we're not complete. So again, it is a misunderstanding of who and what we really are. because we have the whole universe within us. We are complete. It's a matter of our capacity to recognize it. So when we're thirsting or lusting for something from the outside, what we're saying in that action is that we're not complete. And this is why it creates an imbalance. It's got nothing to do with the fact that we shouldn't enjoy life. When we get this completely mastered, we will enjoy life like it's nobody could ever even imagine. This is the level of the enjoyment of life. But when we're thirsting after the enjoyment, what we're actually saying is that we're empty on the inside, which is not true, which is false. With the growth of inertia, the mind and the senses become like just really clouded and not functioning in a clear way. And one starts to not want to just perform like the duties of life, the things that you just need to do to keep things going. So you see people that, are really having a tamasic time. And I know I've spoken to people that are in deep depressions, which is a state of tamas. They're like, I can't even brush my teeth anymore. Like, I can't even brush my teeth, and then of course, it extends to like much bigger things. I can't keep a job. I can't pay my rent. I can't do this. I can't take care of that. I can't do this. This is the guna of tamas, like really taking a hold. So they have a hard time performing the duties of their life. They can be frivolous and kind of in a stupor, like just like frivolous and kind of just not really paying attention, not sharpness, not really aware. Now Krishna speaks about the different gunas and what they affect when you die, because yoga, and of course this is a teaching from yoga, the practices of yoga are really all preparation to die. They're all preparation to disincarnate. Die sounds like, the way we relate to the word die is that we hear it as something that ends. So it's really about disincarnation. There is an evolution of consciousness that takes place, just like we were born, we came from the invisible and now we're visible. Then we will leave from the visible and go into the invisible. Yoga is the practice of being able to do that with as much consciousness as possible. And so here he speaks about what happens when we're in the grips of any of the particular gunas when this takes place. When a man dies during the preponderance of sattva, he obtains the stainless ethereal worlds, the heavens, etc., attained by men of noble deeds. So this doesn't sound bad. It's not bad, but it's not the full experience that is possible for every human being. And just listen on. Dying when rajas is predominant, this person is born among those attached to action. And then dying when tamas is predominant, this person is born as in quite a delusion, becomes quite a delusion, and could even become like another species that's less conscious than a human being. The reward of righteous acts, they say, is sattva, faultless in the form of joy, wisdom, and dispassion. Sorrow is declared to be the fruit of rajasika, and ignorance is the fruit of tamasika. So of this purity, the reward is joy and wisdom and dispassion. Of the overactivity, the reward is sorrow. One will feel a sense of sorrow because this passion is feeling empty. So you're always going to feel like you didn't quite get what you wanted. There's not quite enough. There's still an emptiness. So you have sorrow. You're grieving something. And the reward of the tamasic is ignorance, like just not being able to understand what's really going on. Wisdom follows from sattva, and greed follows from rajas. And then the stupor and ignorance follow from tamas. Those who abide in the qualities of sattva wind their way upwards Well, those who are in the Rajasic disposition stay in the middle, and those in the Tamasic temperament, they start to sink down. So we've all felt this, right? We all experience the gunas. Everybody has all three gunas, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Sometimes it's just our body is absolutely not going to move. Sometimes it's moving like crazy, and sometimes it's like just so harmonized. Same thing happens with our emotions and with our minds. They move through us. It's a constant flux kind of movement. But what we're really looking for, once we understand this, the first thing is to understand, to start to see. It's easiest to see in animate objects rather than in inanimate objects, because we see the movement of the consciousness, but it's in everything. So it's, first of all, we want to recognize it. And then we start to understand how there is a place that is beyond the three gunas. And this is the place that we really want to be. And this is where we're going with our new earth consciousness. And yes, it seems like it's a big, huge step forward, but it's what's available to us. We have this great influx of energy coming through from the cosmic light to show us what is real and what is unreal, so that we identify ourselves with what is real, which is our cosmic reality. When the discerning person sees no one as the doer, here we go, other than the three gunas, and realizes the supreme source energy is standing entirely beyond the gunas, they enter into, Krishna says, my being. They enter into the source state. So this is the first key of how we get beyond this. When the discerning person sees no one as the doer other than the three gunas. So instead of saying like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, we have to see, oh, Rajas is doing this. Oh, Sattva is doing this. Oh, Tamas is doing this. We start to see these properties, and of course, activity, harmony, or purity, inertia. You can use your English language if English is your first language. Start to see that everything is being moved by the gunas. You're not doing it. It's the gunas. You are the imperishable soul. So we start to awaken a very subtle kind of witness consciousness that is actually not subtle at all. Once you start to get it, it is so powerful. There are no words to describe it. Having transcended the three gunas, which have caused the body, you become free from birth and death, from old age, and all kinds of sorrow, that the embodied soul attains supreme bliss. So when we transcend the gunas, when we see that we are not the gunas, but the gunas are acting amongst themselves, then we're freed from birth and death, because we are now connecting to our immortal soul. We're freed from old age. We may take an incarnation, the body will age, but it will not affect how we experience ourselves. And all kinds of sorrow, and we'll talk about this. The embodied soul attains supreme bliss. Now, what is bliss? In Sanskrit, the word for bliss is Ananda, which means it's a divine state that is beyond duality. So it's a state of feeling the consciousness of creation, of source, of Krishna, of Devi, however you wish to speak it, all the time, constantly, that you are in contact with what is real and what is the true motivation, the true substratum of reality. And you're not identifying with the other things that are moving by. You're just in the experience of them and moving with them. So it means that something sorrowful might happen, something very happy might happen, same thing, something pain, something pleasure, but from the state of Ananda, your relationship to them is steady. It doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean even a non-response, but you do not lose that inner knowing of your source self as these gunas do their experience of fluctuating, which is what they are designed to do. They are designed to create the change that we experience in our 3D reality. Now Arjuna says, okay, so all of this is being spoken to Arjuna. Well, what are the marks of someone who has come above these three gunas, and what is their conduct? How do they rise above them? So he's like, okay, this is great. It's really interesting. It's incredible. But how do we do something like this? And now Krishna says, the one who does not have aversion to illumination, to activity, or even to stupor, and does not have attraction to illumination, to activity, or even to stupor. When these different gunas are prevalent, because they are part of the world of form, when these qualities are prevalent. So the person who is not longing for them when they pass, so like, oh my God, I felt so good. And now I feel like I'm just like anxious and I'm like this and everything. Like, I just want that good feeling again. I just want that, we don't want to do that. We want to not be like, it's really about being in the moment, isn't it? Being just absolutely in the moment with what is there, accepting it fully. You're not attracted to it. You're not adverse to it. It's what it is in that moment, because you have a witness consciousness. You're something beyond it. And when it changes, you allow your heart to go into this incredible state of delight and change with it. It's like the most delightful, most liberating thing you could ever do for yourself, is allow this kind of change to take place moment by moment as the moment is moving. And you'll have so much more energy than you could ever imagine, because you just can't even imagine how much of your life force energy is invested in trying to either create a particular result in the moment, or trying to change what is happening in the moment. It's lifetimes and lifetimes that each person has been doing this. When they sit like a witness and they're not disturbed by the gunas, and they know that the gunas alone are moving amongst themselves. So it's like these attributes of activity, of balance, and of inertia, they're like having a dance amongst themselves. And we start to watch that. The more and more we can witness this, the more and more we start to identify with our immortal soul, with our supreme consciousness. This being remains established in the identity with Source, with God, and never falls off that state. So this is what it looks like. So when you actually see them moving amongst themselves, being amongst themselves, working amongst themselves, and you start to really shift your identity out of these attributes and into the attributes, right? Purity, activity, inertia, just to simplify it. When your identification is something beyond all of that, they're just moving. They're moving in your mind, they're moving in your heart, they're moving in your body, they're moving in your life experience, they're moving in other people that you're witnessing. When you can start to have this experience, then you are aligning yourself with God, with Source. And you don't fall from that, because you see it clearly. And this person who is ever established with the self, the capital S self, takes pain and pleasure alike. So this is not, this is the Ananda, meaning that they do not, it doesn't mean that they may not cry. It doesn't mean that they may not be happy if something really wonderful happens, but it doesn't change their inner experience of being with the capital S self. It doesn't change that. This is the difference. They regard a clod of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold as equal in value. As equal in value. So how can anyone do that? It's because they're seeing God in everything. They're seeing Source in everything. They're seeing that the mud is just as much Source as the piece of gold is. That person is just as much Source as the other person is. The gunas manifested as like the gold is really solid and hard, and then The stone is, hard in a different way. The mud is softer. The gunas are organizing themselves to create it in a particular way. But what we're seeing now is this substratum, the God consciousness in everything, the real creative force in everything. So these are equal in value. And then this being is also possessed of wisdom, and they accept the pleasant and the unpleasant experiences of life with the same spirit. They don't lose their mind when something unpleasant happens. They don't lose their mind when something pleasant happens. They don't lose their mind, meaning capital S, self. And they view insult and praise alike. That's really big, right? To really be like, and insult or praise, I view it the same. It doesn't disturb who I know myself to be, because I'm no longer identified with that which I am not. The being who is equiposed in honor or in shame. So whether you're honoring me, whether you're shaming me, I've got an equipoise within myself, and is alike towards friend and enemy. This is so important, and so important for our time right now, where there's so much side taking happening and so much shaking of, different ideas and dualities and things that are going on, and there's lots happening. So we are able to respond in equipoise to both friend and enemy, and has renounced, this is really the real flower of the whole thing, has renounced the sense of doership in all undertakings. It is said that this person has risen above the three gunas. So how do we renounce a sense of doership? Well, we're starting to see the gunas are doing it all. And we're starting to see the substratum of creation is what is real. And that's also doing it all. So we're seeing who is actually doing things from a very, very different lens. They who constantly worship me, like the source creation energy, through the yoga of exclusive devotion. So they say they who also, so he speaks about this. The first part that he describes, it's more of, okay, I understand the gunas, I understand this, and then I'm going to focus, and then I'm going to do this. The alternative to that is working with pure devotion. So the other idea is those who are completely devoted to the transcendental self. They will, in time, through that pure devotion, because they're only focusing on that transcendental self, they will start to see themselves beyond the gunas. They will be released, and they will be eligible for attaining, this great understanding of creation. This great understanding of creation will rise in them from pure devotion. So this is another method. It's called Bhakti Yoga. For I am, this is Krishna speaking, the substratum of the imperishable creation of immortality. The substratum of imperishable creation, the substratum of immortality, of the eternal dharma, which is the righteous action, and the substratum of the unending immutable bliss. So if you focus on the source frequency, if you just continue to concentrate on, to focus on it daily, minute by minute, however you can manage it, you're focusing on that energy that is the substratum of the imperishable creation, that which is not born and does not die, of immortality, that which is not born and does not die, of eternal dharma, so action that is righteous, that supports the eternal self within us, and the unending, innumerable bliss. So this is the great Ananda. So it's a substratum of all these things. So you can go through this process of understanding. This is one way. And you can also go through this process of however you wish to know source to be, however you wish to name it, focusing, just fully focusing on that all the time. And you will have this experience of letting go of the suffering of the doership, the suffering of the false understanding of who you are, the suffering of karma. Because remember, the Vedic teachings are all designed to take us off the wheel of karma, which is what we are also doing as we evolve from the 3D, 4D, 5D, and beyond. We're stepping into karma as something completely different. So this was chapter 14, called the Yoga of the Division of the Three Gunas. So speaking about these three gunas, I hope you enjoyed it. I invite you to speak up in the comments. Let me know, what does it sound like to you? I'm actually going to mark it because I'm super enjoying reading this right now. I've read it about 5 times in the past less than 24 hours. Yeah, let's hear about it. And yes, please subscribe, share, all of these things. This is necessary to be able to keep on sharing like this. And I hope you enjoy this. And Hare Krishna.